is.
Here are some players, not a surprise, that are leaving. More from the University of Texas. Matthew Golden, hell of a year. From Houston, the transfer went to Texas, had a great year for them, and he is headed to the NFL. As is, Isaiah Bond, transfer from Alabama, was hurt in that championship game. Though Golden went out in the championship game, Bond was in and out of late, put up pretty good numbers. I don't know if he ever was as good as maybe everyone thought he would be in that offense, but with Golden and Bond and others, you had a lot of weapons to spread it around to.
Yeah, I mean, outside the injury, I mean, he was better early, I guess, than he was late because he was injured and wasn't so much of a factor in the postseason. I mean, of course, he was part of the moment that got Alabama into the playoff last year, which was that 4th and forever.
Against
Hail
Auburn.
Mary
Yep.
with Jalen Milroe. If that doesn't happen, then maybe I'm a happier person in general. Just because I didn't realize when I was watching that my whole world was going to get shattered because of that.
Oh, because Auburn blew a lead.
What, did something happen with Florida State?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, of course, their losses don't count, but,
Well, I mean, Florida State's quarterback was hurt, though. So
I have the weirdest feeling. I have to say this, and this is so strange that this is one of those I thought happened before already at this conversation.
It might have.
And
I don't know.
I thought about it earlier today, and I don't know why. I was like, when's the next time we talk about Florida State football? Well, here we are.
Well, I mean, like you didn't have to call it out specifically like that, but I mean, I'll always kind of hate Isaiah Bond, even though I shouldn't.
Yeah, it's
even though I shouldn't. I mean, he did something that hurt me.
yeah, I mean, he did definitely make a big play against your Knowles, and
Actually, he didn't.
or not against. Excuse me.
I mean,
Well, I guess no. Technically, he did. It was
Yeah.
to the detriment of Florida State,
Yeah.
actually. So it was a big play against your Knowles, technically.
Yeah.
But regardless, he was expected to be a pretty big-time player, and health obviously factored in here. And I'd say he had some good moments, but, I mean, he didn't have but one 100-yard game the entire year. And that was the big game against UTSA that they just blew away the Roadrunners and beat them by 50, and he had a couple TDs and like 100-plus yards, and that was his best game as a Texas Longhorn statistically. 5 touchdowns on the year. I think you'd expect a lot more than that coming from a guy who is a big investment and a little over 500 yards on 34 catches. So, I mean, he has, like I said, some moments, but, yeah, nothing that was to the extent of what you heard and what you maybe even expected based on what you heard or what you'd seen from him previously entering, the Texas offense and being one of the big replacements for the guys they lost last year, who are now playing in the NFL. So, yeah, that was a quick dip in the pool in Austin, and now it's off to the NFL. And you expected that would probably be the case with a guy of his, talents, measurables, whatever. But didn't have the banner year that maybe you thought that he might have.
Yeah, no, and Golden did. Golden was absolutely phenomenal. But if you look at his 58 catches, I think, for 900 yards. Then you look at some of the other receivings, but he was really, really good. That's not it for Texas.
Thinking of sending someone a boring gift basket? Don't. I know, gifting is hard, but don't gift basic. Gift Boardery. Fully arranged gourmet charcuterie boards. Perfect for any occasion. Birthdays, engagements, thank you gifts. Boardery has you covered. Plus, if you forget to get a gift, Boardery ships overnight nationwide. So no more excuses, Cheryl. Don't gift basic. Gift Boardery.
They also lost their right tackle. Now, he's the one that allowed that strip sack touchdown, but it was coming off an injury. They had some guys beat up on the offensive line. Attrition hit him, and he was one that was injured the last, I think, even missed a game or two. He is headed to the NFL draft.
Yeah, he and Kelvin Banks both should be picked in the first round. I think that Kelvin Banks is the number 1 ranked tackle from a lot of services. Matt Miller has Cameron Williams as number 3. Banks could probably play guard. I think Williams could probably play guard as well. So, I mean, this is a team that's this is I know that they don't say rebuild, they reload the talent that they have, and maybe, but they're losing a lot of experience and guys who have played in the playoff semifinal 2 years in a row.
Okay, here's one of the things, though. Remember the complaint just 2 years ago was Texas doesn't have anybody drafted.
Oh, hey, it's working out well for them.
Talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, and so and here they are. This is a great compliment. They're on a roll where they're going to have maybe double digits again or more. There we go. That's Shahan right there.
Part of the list, you've got Kelvin Banks, Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, Cam Williams. That's 4 offensive linemen alone that are off that team now, based on the declarations so far. So 4 offensive linemen. Jaden Blue, like he's super talented, like no doubt, but I don't feel like that's irreplaceable per se. I mean, their run game in general needs help. So
well, if Baxter can get healthy,
yeah, like I don't worry about Texas having a hard time finding a running back. Like, oh my God, we're losing Bijan. Well, you went and got Jaden Blue and all these other guys, so I think you'll be fine. But yeah, Jaden Blue, a guy that's no longer on the roster as well. You've also got Gunnar Helm, which that is a loss. I don't think there's any doubt about that he's a very good player. And then Golden and Bond at wide receiver. I feel like you probably find the 2025 version of those guys to replace, just like you did with replacing, your 2023 receivers in AD and Chiefs.
Worthy.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy. I had Isaiah Bond on my brain, Xavier Worthy. So I think a similar situation. They'll go find like a couple of dudes who are dudes, and they'll be probably fine at wide receiver. But I will say, like, the receivers this year we talked about this yesterday as well, did not quite maybe live up to, like, the high level of expectation. So replacing guys, the point being, is easier said than done. It doesn't just translate every time, because I do think there were some areas where you loved what they did in the portal, but maybe they dipped as far as output goes. So we'll see on that. But so offensively, 4 offensive linemen, a running back, 2 wide receivers, and your tight end. Is that not nearly the entire 11? And then Quinn Ewers is leaning towards the draft, right? So he's not even official yet. That's just offense. Then defense, you got Gavin Holmes, Vernon Broughton, David Gabenda, Bill Norton, Alfred Collins,
Jade
Barron. So, yeah, they're losing. I mean, they're going to have like 15 draft picks, and that's what I was talking about yesterday of, like, there's never going to be a day in our lifetime again where they probably have 0 draft picks, because they should never have that happen again. But they're going to have like a good 10+. Yeah. And that'll probably be the norm most years moving forward.
I would say so. I think this is how you show you truly passed the Saban rehabilitation or training program, depending if you're Steve Sarkisian, who is in the coach refurbishment fixer-upper program, or if you're Kirby Smart, who is just in the apprenticeship program.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart's done it. Kirby Smart has lost 100 guys to the draft over his tenure now, and hasn't missed a beat, really, right? Steve Sarkisian didn't miss a beat this year. He didn't lose as much, and we'll see how much of a beat, if any, they miss next year. I think the biggest thing they'll have is just some inexperience, but they still should be a friggin' juggernaut because of the way they're recruiting.
Well, and the way that Arch has been hyped up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whether they want that to be the that's the expectation with Arch taking over, is like it's getting back to where they've been and going farther. And anything less than that, guys, is a bust. That's why I said yesterday about the quote I heard, and I can't remember who I heard it from, but how will Quinn Ewers be remembered, especially with the way his career ended with the pick, but obviously before that the big strip fumble and touchdown. And whoever said it was, I think, dead on. They said, well, it depends on what Arch Manning does, because if Arch Manning goes and wins the national title next year, then Quinn Ewers is going to be looked at as nearly as good as he will if Arch Manning doesn't go and win a title. And you go like, well, damn, Arch didn't win a title. So, but that's about 15 guys now that have declared for the draft or are moving on to the draft for Texas. I don't know if it'll be that high each year, but I do think they're going to be more towards 10 than they are towards 1 in this NIL era moving forward. And certainly we're not going to probably ever see another time where they don't have a single draft pick, which we saw a couple times in the last 15 or so years. So, yeah, that's a pretty heavy list to have to replace, even with all the money in the world at your disposal. So we'll see how they go about doing that.
They had a great class. Wide receiver was a position that they went in heavy. They didn't get everybody. One kid from Duncanville went to Oregon, and you're not going to get all of them, but they had a really good recruiting class, I think in the top 2, 3, or 4, depending on which particular one you use. Maybe one, I think, in fact.